RSI, what's that?
It's a relative strength index. We may or may not have talked about it, so let's talk about it right now. Relative strength index. When the index is green, that means there's a lot of bond, there's a lot of strength in the upward trend of the stock. And when it hits 90, it means that the stock is overbought. It means there's just too many people bought the stock. Everybody and their grandma and grandma bought the stock. Okay, so which signals that there may not be a whole lot more buyers, more new buyers coming in, because everybody that could possibly buy it already bought. Now the opposite is true when it hits a level of below 30. That means the stock is oversold. Okay, and so that means that everybody possibly that could have absolutely wanted to sell the stock probably already sold it by that point. So, you know, when the stock is oversold, it's time to think about maybe picking up some shares, because the number of sellers is not that big anymore. So the chances for a move even lower may not be that great, but the chance of a bounce could be greater than the move down. Okay, so what do you see here?
Is that RSI, is that calculated, say if a bank, you know, buys 10 million shares, is that counted as one transaction, or is that counted as 10 million transactions?
Well, no, this is like an index, so this is not the actual trading. So the volume of shares, if the bank buys 10 million shares, you would see this right here in the volume, okay?
Yeah.
This is just an index that measures the relative strength of a price movement in a stock. So, it's on the
way down.
Right. So it's on the way down. Remember, at 90, it's overbought, and at 30, it's oversold. Where is it at right now? It's at 46.
Is it 40 or 46?
Yeah, it's 46.8. Okay, and so it's not oversold yet. It's not oversold. In other words, it's not under 30. So if it was under 30, then we should be concerned, because maybe everybody that wanted to sell already sold. But at 46.8, it still has room to fall to 30, right? Which means I don't think we have seen all the sellers here yet. Okay? What this tells me, there could be more sellers. There could be more sellers coming in next week. Okay? Because see, it recently was, when it was falling here, see, it almost touched the 30 two times here, maybe 32, 33. See, it was here. See, when it had this big sell-off, it came to 30, and you saw what happened after that. So this RSI in this case was a really good indicator, right? The moment it hit 30, they started buying it. So at 30, it was oversold. All the buyers that wanted to sell sold out. And when it was no longer any sellers left, that's when the stock started moving higher. So we're not at this point yet. Right? We're not at 30.
No.
But when should we get concerned? If this RSI index gets to maybe 32, 33, we should be maybe looking at closing out the position at that, right? Because historically we see when it gets there, it has a tendency to go up from there. Okay?
Yeah.
So we roughly got maybe 12, 13 points lower on the RSI before, you know, maybe the selling is going to stop, okay? Tentatively, okay? All right, so what else do you see?
Where are we? It's, I don't know what I should be looking at. The accumulation line.
Okay.
There's still people buying it.
It's still good, right? So this is actually one thing that jumps out at me that does not speak in favor of this bearish trade. This is actually tells me, hey, as the stock is falling, they're not selling it, they're buying it. So we're getting some different information here, which is why this does not make it like a perfect trade. So because this is actually a bullish sign. As the stock is falling, they're buying it. And can you find another bullish sign here?
I've got a feeling it's this MACD, somewhere in this MACD. But I don't know what that is yet. I never looked it
Okay. Well, actually, it wasn't the MACD, but on the MACD here, we really don't see a whole lot. We typically see some transformations when the red line crosses the black or the other way around. We're not really seeing a cross here of any way. If it does, then it would be indication whether it's going to go lower or higher. But unfortunately, this does not help us out a whole lot here. Okay. But what does is I notice, and this is just a pure observation, I notice this, that within the last few months, every time it goes under the blue line by a little bit, it stays there for some time and ultimately goes higher. And the same thing I'm observing here. It went under the line and then, it went higher. In other words, it had a chance to fall lower here and had a chance to fall lower here, had a chance to fall lower here, and it has not done that. So that is a concern to me because, what if they're just going to stop it right here and try to start buying it like the way they did here? So that is a concern. So what I want to do at this point, so did you write the 3 bearish signs and the 2 bullish signs so far?
Yeah, stock drop on earnings report, huge volume down, RSI is low, but it's got room to fall.
Okay, and what about the 2 bullish signs that you're observing?
Accumulation distribution line.
Yes, so please write that down so we can actually evaluate this next week.
Yeah, I don't know what the second one was.
The second one, we observed that every time it goes below the blue line, it actually does not go lower, does not go much lower once it goes below it, which is a little bit unusual. We're seeing that every time it goes under the blue line, it does not go much lower, and it has a tendency of getting itself out of it. And we're observing this here, and then we're observing this here. Now, what we could use in favor of this trade is the fact that, hey, it is not under the blue line right now, is it? It's trading right now at $239. See, let's go back to this trade.
I went through it, but then it come back out again.
See, it's at 239. Under the blue line means it would be at 235 or lower. And it already shown us it has capacity to fall right here, which would be 226. Now, so 235 is the 50-day moving average. So looking at these two things, my personal estimate of this situation would be this, okay? I do not want to buy any puts out of the money. In other words, I should not presume that there's going to be a fall to 189. I should not presume there's going to be fall to 200 or 210. It could be reasonable to assume, based off the past performance and behavior of the stock, that it could go to 230, maybe 220. So my best strategy, if I am looking at buying puts, in other words, I should expect a possible $5 to $15 move lower. And so I would be shooting in for a move between 8 and 15 and divided by 2. Right, which would put me at about $12 roughly. Now that's not precise math here. I'm just doing this in my head. So if I'm entering, if it trades at 239, then I'll definitely be buying the 235s because that would limit my risk. If the stock goes to 230, I'm already going in the money, and if it falls to 225, then I'm $10 in the money. Okay. So now let's look at the price of this situation. How much is it worth the trade? In other words, Chris, let me ask you this. If we look at the price target, at the price of the option, what if this option is costing you $10? Is it worth the trade?
No, because that's all you're going to make anyway.
Right. What if it's worth $5? What if you can buy it for $5?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's, yeah.
Then that would make sense because it has a chance to go to possibly 10 or 15, and if we use the average, it has a chance to go to 12. So if you buy it for 5 and you have a potential chance to sell it for 12, then it's a decent trade. But let's see where it actually stands. Let's see IPGP.
Did you say before 218 was out of the money? Did you say that before?
On which one, sorry?
On this one that we're talking about. When you said before you didn't think it would go as low as 218 or 2...
Yeah, but I think it is going to go to... sorry, charts. I think it has a chance to go to I think it has a chance from... I was not basing it off of this. I was basing it off of 235 because the 235 was the... see the blue line? Actually being equal to 235 and 32 cents right here. This moving average, the blue line moving average. And then I'm looking at one point it was $15 below that, right? So I think, okay, so my max possibly is $15 lower from here, but it could be, you know, $8 to $10 right here or right here, right? So I'm kind of using like an average. There's no perfect science here. I'm trying to average out the numbers, but at this point, looking at this action, I'm not assuming that it could drop to like here. And if it does, wonderful, you know. But at this point, I'm trying to calculate the price and how much it would cost. And unfortunately, I'm looking here, and it doesn't really trade weekly options, okay? It trades only monthly, so you can buy monthly. But let's see how much they cost. So 27 days out. You're looking at, hey, oh my God, this is actually a good price for a month. I think for a month, this is a good price. But 230, but so there's actually no put option for 235. So we don't even have an option to buy 235. We really wanted 235, but we were wanting the 235 weekly. But now they're giving us an option to buy 230 monthly for the price of $5. But that gives us the whole month. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this. First, we're going to come here. We're going to use, since now we're talking about a longer time frame, I'm going to come here and see, okay, well, what is the chances of this stock actually falling maybe by $20, $30 over a month? And so what do we see here?
Well, the history is that it's been way down. What is it? It's only come back up again. Is that December 17?
Okay, but here's what I'm seeing, Chris. Here's what I'm seeing. Okay?
12 months ago, it was below 100.
I know. But look, here's what I'm thinking at this point. I'm looking at this, and I see that the stock is actually capable. At one point, it went from, what, 250 to under 200. So it's capable of doing a $50 move, and it showed here it can do a $50 move. Okay, and right now it's only down from, what, 260 to 239. That's a $20 move. So I still think there is a $30 move lower. If I'm using this variations of $50 move lower and a $50 move higher, that could also mean that the stock could make a $50 move here. But I'm not measuring it from here. I'm measuring it from the 260 where it started. So from 260 to 239, it already made a $21 move. So another $29 move is possible. So it looks like it could come to the 210 area, okay, over a month's time. Now it could actually do that. As we see this, we may not have to wait a month. It may actually happen within a week. So even though we're buying a monthly option, you know, if it does go to 210, and this is the area where they're sort of buying it, I would close it out. And at 210, that option would produce a 400% return. Now, this is the most important thing that I'm observing here, and I actually like this a lot, okay? I like this a lot. So, look at this RSI. As it was hitting an all-time high here, look where RSI was at the 90 level. See this?
Yeah.
So this stock, this stop right here actually is reflected in this stop right here. It coincides.
Yes. Yep.
Now, this is the coolest indicator of all that I know, Chris, that in real life has actually gotten me more good put trades than anything else. And this is it right here. And you know what? If you have a chance, take a picture or pull it up on your graphs and take a picture of it somehow, because this is exactly what I want you to look at in the future. So this is what I'm talking about. Now look, the price of the stock was at the highest level and the RSI was at the highest level. Now look what happens to the price of the stock. Now this price here is higher than the price right here. Do you see this?
Yeah, okay. Yep,
This
yep.
point here is now ultimately the highest point at which the stock has ever traded in its history of this graph. But
Yeah,
where is
sure.
the RSI?
Yeah, it's only halfway to that point.
Right.
Or
So-
3/4.
So look, this is a perfect example of a divergence. It's a divergence. As the stock goes higher, this indicator is not following it higher, and this is a definite sign of a top. Okay? This
So
is
why
a
is the
sign
accumulation
of
still
a
up?
top. Now, well, at the same time, look, for the like this accumulation starts to go like
Curve.
a little bit, it's starting to curve, okay? And so that tells me there's actually room for more sellers to come in and sell, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So I think if we go with the 1 month trade and actually buy one put option, if we're able to buy it at the level where it's at right now. Now, another thing I'm thinking is, you know, let's say the markets are actually topping, and let's say the markets are going to be negative next week, okay?
Yeah.
So now the stock already has negative news, right? And the markets
It's
are,
only one of the first.
and the markets are negative. So are they really going to be buying this stock next week?
They're going to dump it like stone, hot stone.
Right. So there is a chance. Now, if the market is going to be positive, what could happen? It could be fluctuating, maybe a few dollars up, a few dollars down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So my strategy would be this. I hope the markets open positive. My strategy would be this. If the stock goes higher by a few dollars, maybe 242, 245, I am not buying the idea that this is a bullish stock anymore. So if it goes higher, I'm going to buy the put. Okay?
And cheaper run.
Right. I remember at one point, me and you have discussed an important thing to observe, which is called a gap up or a gap down. You see, when the stock announced the earnings here, what happened? See, there is
There's a gap.
it was a gap, and it was a gap down. See, it was not a gap up and then down. It was a straight gap down, which is another bearish sign. Okay, so a gap down is a bearish sign. Okay, so as you correctly pointed out, some people thought it was a bargain here and they started buying it. However, do you see where the gap started?
Yeah, okay, at the top.
It started here at the level of about 251.90. Now, where was this?
Never quite.
This was at 248. So this was $3, $4 from actually hitting this.
Short of that.
But it never even
It's
got
selling
here.
off again.
And it started selling up, which means there was not enough strength for them to close the gap. And when the gap does not close, that is a bearish sign, which means this stock may not be able to close this gap for another month or 2 or 3, or who knows. This may be the highest this stock is ever going to trade. Okay, and this crazy bullish trend that it has experienced for over a year or 2 years, maybe it's finally coming to an end. Maybe that is why they're selling. Maybe that's what they realize, and maybe the stock is stopping here, and there is no more reasons to buy it, and there is no more reasons for it to go higher to the 300 level. Okay, so
Over a period of time, it creeps up, then drops, and then creeps up, then drops.
right,
So back in 2016, they've done it twice.
right. If you're looking back here and you're observing, it dropped, it kind of They were accumulating it, and then it jumped higher, probably on some good news again. But the point is I'm observing also here on this MACD, it's sort of a double top. See, this black thing matches with the top price in the stock. As the stock price goes higher, this is no longer at its highest level. That is called a double top. It's a double top. It's a double top. So now we have found out about 3 or 4 bearish signs, and so our only bullish signs at this point are the fact that, yeah, the accumulation has not dropped, but it also gives us a potential for a bigger sell-off. And we're looking here, and you know, we're seeing that every time it dips below the blue line, it doesn't go significantly lower. But could it actually be different this time? If the stock is really topping off, and this is a double top, we may see the stock actually now. I'm more convinced that over a period of a month, it has a chance to go to this level here of 189.
Okay.
I have actually now convinced myself of this, Chris. Okay. But you know, this is kind of where I start looking at things. Okay. Now, I will show you another thing about the stock, which is going to be another bearish sign. Have you visited Investors Business Daily on Friday?
Oh, I did.